Here we go on the third day of the Jersey Coastal Path, 18 miles onto the endpoint back at St Helier. Today we pass 6 more Conway Martella towers, but plenty of German Atlantic Wall fortifications to visit, and some spectacular scenic views along the way. It may be the last day of the trail, but I shall be back to the Channel Islands soon, as there's so much still to discover. Okay folks, as we continue heading down along the western side, and all the way down, where you can see right over there is the lighthouse. We're walking along the coast, we'll reach it. I think that's called Le Grouin. Well, I've been walking along the way. We've seen a few World War II fortifications. We did see it Les Longueurs after we went past Gomez Castle yesterday. Now, I didn't realise that all that was there. And then we got down into where I caught the bus last night, and there was a few bunkers and blockhouses there. And I was thinking, well, I mean, when they said the German occupation, I know they built fortifications for the Atlantic War, but it just didn't feel like there was enough. I know we're several years on, but we have preserved a lot of it. When I caught the bus back last night, I went along this coastline that I'm actually going to walk on today. Let's just say all the fortifications I saw were just whetting my appetite for what we're going to see today. There is unbelievable amount of places along this side, heading all the way back towards St Helier. I may even come back to Jersey, just hunting out all these World War II locations. If you think that's a good idea, let me know, add a comment. If there's interest in it, then I might well do it. Okay, anyway, we're heading on to our first thing up here. I presume it's like a Conway Tower, although circular rather than the taller, longer ones we saw before. Just beyond that is the Channel Islands Military Museum, and I'm hoping to pop in. Not going to spend too long there. I think it's 2 or 3 bunkers all attached together. From what I gather, all the way down this front, there's quite a few batteries, like artillery batteries that were there, and I presume the majority of the soldiers that were based on the Channel Islands were based all the way around this front. My only thoughts on this is that, well, on the eastern side, we saw a few fortifications. Fort Henry and Fort William, and then the strongholds, but not excessive. But that was sort of like bordering France, and obviously the Germans are built on the Atlantic War along the French coast. Then on the northern side, well, you would have thought that would be the easiest place to attack because it was such rural. We did see a few forts yesterday, but not excessive amount. Obviously, some of them have gone to ruins. But the western side, which is obviously, that's the Atlantic Ocean over there, that you would have thought, well, if they're going to attack, the Germans must have thought that the west would have been the #1 place to be attacked, as we'll find out as we continue walking along the Jersey Coastal Path. And looking back from where we are now, you can see there's concrete wall being built. The sea doesn't come in as far as that. You can see where the seaweed comes into. So this German wall is being built probably, I would say about 25 feet high from the sandy bed over there. And it is quite wide as well, so this would have been to stop any vehicles trying to get in. Each place you can get in is quite fortified, as we see as we continue on. So this is one of the pathways, heads down onto the beach, but it's fortified. We've got a blockhouse on our left-hand side. Weidenstand nest, this is what WN stands for. And we can see that wall on our right-hand side. No military vehicles were going past that. So a couple of blockhouses here. And down the beach. So that's where we were yesterday. Right on the edge of the peninsula, we can see the big blockhouse that I saw that was some sort of fishery. And then the rock to the right of it, that's where the bus stop was. And then up on the top was where the Les Longs Montal battery was. So you can see that that is an older tower, although it's had some modifications, the concrete on the left-hand side. On our right-hand side, we've got one of these blockhouses. I think I can actually go down to this one, partly. So this is the WN Lewis bunker. Although I'm not sure about going through that gap. It's only about 2.5 feet wide. It's a bit of a climb. I'm sure we're going to see better ones in a moment. You'll see the machine gun post position there. Yeah, from what I gather, there's plenty of these along this bay. Let's go and find a better one to look at. I think where the flags are is where this museum is. A turret gun is basically off the top of a tank. It's armoured. There actually is one here. Let's go and take a look.
I believe this is a Renault R35 tank to Brook, probably housed an MG34, MG being a machine gun and 34 being the year it was introduced, 1934.
And we can see basically the roof part of this bunker. It is quite a substantial one. As I say, it goes beyond there. All what I'm standing on this mound is part of this bunker. And I think the mound that's over there, it goes under there as well. Anyway, let's go inside and take a look. So Dragon's Tooth. So the most comprehensive collection of authentic German civilian occupation memorabilia on display. And this is what I mentioned about earlier, about how the people and the locals just got on with the Germans as if they were just visitors, tourists. So lots of memorabilia, lots of little rooms as well. There's the machine gun point. Locked door on that side. You lock yourself in, lock yourself out. But it was just about big enough to put a grenade in. Someone could chuck a grenade in there when that metal door is closed. You ain't getting out. So we're going to just quickly whip out some of the weapons. So this is all observation equipment. My grandfather was in observations and he gave me his prismatic compass and his binoculars. You can see this bunker. Obviously, if you take the display cabinets out, it's a large place. He's got a cheesy grin on his face. I'll look out, point that way, looking across the bay. I think it's twin MP34s. Okay, so we're leaving the Channel Islands Military Museum and it's worthwhile to have a look. It's not a big museum, but they've got a lot of memorabilia in there that's well worth looking into, in particular World War II. Right, funny enough, the guy I was talking to, he was in the Royal Hampshires and we ended up having a bit of chinwag about old military stuff as in British Army. He was based in Germany as well when I was there. No, sorry, not when I was there. He said he left a little bit before me. But yeah, small world. We're behind on time now. But good thing about walking by yourself is that there's no time frame. And from what I gather, this new camera I've got, the Action 5 Pro, is very good at filming at low light. Let's knock out these miles. Unfortunately, I can see military installations all the way down here, but they're all not museums. So we'll have a quick glimpse at some of them. Not all of them. We need to crack on. I actually thought we had an easy day today, but I think we've still got about 14 miles to do today before we finish this trail. we're on to our next place. Now, that is I believe it's an Airbnb now. It was a military fortification at one point. Now it's been painted up to look like a ship. It's called the Seagull. Well, I am enjoying it. Hopefully you are. Still quite a few fortifications and other places to see along the way. So stick with, and we'll get to the end. Here you can see it's got a gun position on the side. I think that'll be an open one on the front and then one on the other side. I'm not sure if we can get into this one. You can see them all dotted around. There's another one just there. So they're all dotted all over the place. Now, that one I just went past, there's no sign of how an entrance would be from this side. Unfortunate thing is that walking on this side, I do see some of the entrances, but not all of them. There's something else here. You can see concrete there. So again, it might be sand dunes that's blown that over, or it's just been filled in over the time. So I'm guessing that is either a side wall, the way it's shaped. There may be an entrance directly into that line there. Coastal defences as we continue down. So this is the rooftop of Ouen Le Crabiere. Built as part of the anti-tank war, it has one left and one right-handed Type 631 casement housing a 4.7 centimetre pack gun. So we saw one on the right-hand side. Okay, so there where the position of the guns were. It also included a water pumping bunker. All remain, but entrances are buried. So some remnants here, old iron broke away. So here's another one of our blockhouses. Big metal door, as per usual. That's a newer version, it's not original. That entrance is blocked off. So that would have been how you get up onto the top part. Big metal door here. Let's just see if it's... God, that's solid. That ain't moving for nobody. Again, behind this one would have been a machine gun position. There's actually a gun in there. There you go. So that's like the machine guns that you would have seen out sticking out. That's unfortunate. It's been covered up like that. There's history there. I wasn't sure that the guns were like that. I didn't realise. So I thought it was shorter barrel than that. Right, anyway. Can't get into this one, so there's no point in us trying to. I think what I'm going to do in a minute is go on to the beach. You can see the side of the position here. So there would have been a gun on this one, a larger gun facing out across the bay that way. So obviously it's been concreted in now, but there would have been a large gun facing out to that direction. Slightly fenced off this area, I'm not sure why. So we've got a small building here. I presume that's observation. There's actually a few buildings here. This is, looks like accommodation, I think. So there's one path down here. We've got a structure on our left-hand side, so we'll assume there's another entrance down here. There is. Again, all blocked off. It's got two doors, this one. So I think this would be sort of like accommodation block, communications, the logistics side of these bunkers that's here. They're all hidden away. You don't want to spot it out. Where this one, that just looks like a coastal building for any passing reconnaissance planes who are gathering information. But you got to remember, these places were guarded 24 hours a day. So there would have been probably a block, like maybe one of these two, that was just accommodation, that people were on a cycle of sleeping, eating and working. Now on the right, we've got another one of the towers. This is Kemp Tower. So yeah, we've got another entrance there, similar sort of thing. I think this is like a logistics for the operations area. We've got to think that those Allied troops never came. They didn't think it necessary to. So all these fortifications that's built along this island, were never used. That's the reason why they're probably quite in reasonable condition. It actually worked out well because the German soldiers on this island not doing anything, so to speak, protecting something that was never to happen. So that was 25,000 soldiers that Hitler had but didn't use. Right, we're going to walk onto the beach now and see some of these other bunkers from the seafront. So we had 2 gun positions either side, and they were heavy machine guns. We also had a searchlight, and obviously we saw where all those troops were as well, so it was quite a heavily fortified position. Right, we'll continue on along the bay. We're walking along St. Ouen's Bay, and we're going to see a few other gun positions along the way. I'll tell you what their names are as we pass them, and then we'll head towards the lighthouse. There's a lot of wildlife here. As I say, the amount of buzzards and other birds of prey I've seen quite close up. See the World War II fortifications. You've got the Napoleonic towers dating back to 1750s onwards. And then also we saw those long barrows. So there's a lot of history over thousands of years on Jersey. Plus on the top, it's very picturesque. If this is my public announcement to say come to Jersey, then I would say yes. I mean, it was intended to be a one-off come to Jersey, but I think I might come back because for me, military history, there's a lot for me to see. I don't think I could cover it all in the time I'm here. There's the war tunnels. Right, okay. I think I've dribbled on a bit too much there. Let's continue on the bay as we're going past another nest. Now, there was a Napoleonic round tower here called the High Tower, but unfortunately they knocked it down to build this instead. They couldn't build it by the side of it by just 6 foot, could they? No, they had to knock it down. There was 4 NCOs on this site and 15 other ranks. And the weapons they had here was 2 MG34s, 1 5cm 36 mortar, 2 4.7cm pack guns, and 1 medium flamethrower plus a 40cm searchlight. Quite a bit of arsenal there. The reason why is that there's another entrance off the beach from here, so that's why it was fortified quite well. There's a little white building there as well, I'm not sure what that is. Big white building to the left of it. We've got WN steps, Pont 43. So as there were no pre-war and landmarks on the 1933 Ordnance Survey maps, this distance name takes its name from the only other thing at this point, which is the steps leading down to the beach, and manned by troops of the 1st Company of Machine Gun Battalion 16. So this one is WN Le Grouin. Now this one had 1 MG34. This also had a Czechoslovakian anti-tank gun mounted with a machine gun.
Achtung! Panzer auf 3 Uhr!
Elevation 20, bereit zum Feuern!
And a French gun. Now apart from that, we swing her over to our right hand side. We've got Le Rocco Tower. So another tower built for the Napoleonic Wars. Le Rocco Tower was built between 1796 and 1801, and it derives its name from Le Roc Ho, or Rock How, meaning rocky islet. It was one of the 30 coastal towers built by Sir Henry Seymour Conway when he was appointed governor of Jersey. The towers weren't really fortification at first, until the French later threatened invasion from St. Malo in 1794. That serious consideration was given to building a coastal tower at Le Rocco to guard the southern end of St. Ouen's Bay. Le Rocco was the 23rd and last coastal tower in Jersey to be built following the Conway design, and was also the largest and most heavily armed of the whole series. It maintained a military role into the mid-19th century, and as evidenced by the Royal Engineers reported in January 1848, which records that Le Rocco Tower and Battery, as it had become known, was armed with 5 32-pounder guns. The tower's military role declined in the second half of the 19th century, until 1896 Le Rocco Tower and Battery was included in a list of War Department properties. During World War II, It was considered as the most likely beach for the Allied landings. The German occupied forces constructed a large number of defensive structures. The Germans adapted Le Rocco Tower and installed landmines around the tower for use against the Allies, the explosives being wired to the Aubin slipway. The physical condition deteriorated steadily over the following decades until 1960s. There was a public appeal to protect the building. So when the tide's out, well, it looks like you can practically walk to it. You can, although we're not going to. On our left, we've got WN Carrier by Le Crabiere on the St. Owen's Bay. This one had lots of troops because there's lots of bunkers detailed behind that main one we see there. Now it had a 4.7 centimetre anti-tank gun with mounted machine gun, a 10.5 centimetre French gun. So you can see this one's quite fortified as well, Le Crabiere. Actually we are heading that direction, so we'll get a close look in a moment. So this is the actual original pathway into this bunker, the old like trench work there. Let's have a look if we can get in this one. There is meant to be a couple of them you can get into, but I'm not sure which ones they are. Ow. This isn't one of them. You can see the gun position on the left hand side, machine gunner, and a big rusty door. And the machine gun position up the steps there. Right, anyway, I've just walked in the middle of this crap. I need to get out of it. Now, I've just realised that this mound all the way along here, I think is a bunker as well, because you can just make out there's some concrete there in that gap where this mound is here with the, looks like bracken on it. I bet there might be, or even on that rock surface up there, I bet there's more to it there. I found a way up, although I'm not sure if I'm going to go that way. So I'm going to go this way. It looks a bit more pleasant. Still got I keep saying 6 miles, and every time I walk around another bay I go another 6 miles to go. I need to really check on the map to see how far out yet I've got. Little font, 1871. So the artillery battery that was located around here was the Ouen, and it also had an observation position. But there is another one. When we get to that rock edge, there's another bunker around that corner. That reminds me when I did the Johnny Groats Land's End on a bicycle. There was a guy doing it on a lawnmower. Started 2 weeks before me, but going at that speed, I reckon I finished a lot faster than he did. Right, there's a gun battery up here, although I can't see, probably just the remains of it. It could well have been in this yard here. And the gun could fire 6 miles. Well, this is the next step of the footpath, but that don't look very good. Private property, this coast footpath is unlit on rough terrain, giving the potential of slips or trips or a steep drop to the seaside. Pearsons using this footpath do so at their own risk. Well, there's a view for you across the bay. That's where we've come from this morning, right over at the end point, and we've come all the way around the edge of the bay. Le Rocco Tower over there. We're heading for the lighthouse now. I think it's probably about another 2 miles from where we are at the minute. Then we'll head in, land a little bit, less than a kilometre. Got all these rock pools, so if you like rock pooling, this is the place. And then the lighthouse, all the fortifications. You can see that fortification now with the gun point on that side. I just can't work out what that sign's saying about the private footpath, and the path is that narrow you could quite easily fall off. It's probably one of the widest footpaths I've been on. So with the gun position, it was just behind me. German soldiers would have walked down and up this path a long time ago. Right, we're going to head down this way now. I was going to walk that way, but I think it doesn't go anywhere. So we're going to head onto the road now. I think that follows up in front of them buildings. Around to the lighthouse. Our position there as we come down towards our lighthouse. We've also got one of those towers there as well, Navy Tower. Down where we can see the lighthouse. There's a path there, you can walk to it. In the morning of April 17th, 1995, whilst on a passage from Jersey to Sark, the French catamaran struck a rock 900 metres north of Le Crabiere. A nearby ship gave assistance. This memorial is erected in Thanksgiving and a tribute to the rescue, which, with the help of God of many strong arms, ensured the safe return of all on board. When the tide's in, well, you can't get far, but when the tide's out, you can walk all the way to the lighthouse. See, we've got probably a gun placement there. Actually, it's quite dotted around with places here. Now, I believe the one on the right here, they do tours to. There's another one just there, and I think there's one right over near the lighthouse. Maybe this is one I can get inside. Have a look. See, that one there is quite large indeed. It's got 2 search station points, or are they for flat guns? And then there's another one here, buried away. You can go in there, have a look. There you go, so this is what you would have had to look at, the observation point. So there's another position up there. No, I didn't see that one, where it's painted on the wall. Now I've got to try and get down there again. Okay, I managed to get down. Now the funny thing is, I met a lot of German women when I was in the army, and German men, but they're all quite tall, so I'm surprised how these bunkers were made quite low. Must have been banging their heads all the time. So there you go, German infantry defensive position, strong point Corbiere. You saw the map, it has substantial amount of buildings here. The most fortified area, you see that what's now a car park is actually, there's another one posting down there. Like I said, we're not going to cover it all. We're going to head back up in a minute. Still a few miles to do. But we just wanted to see the lighthouse, and here it is, all perched up on the top. Right, anyway, miles to do. Lights are good at the moment, but it's about 4 p.m. So I actually started a bit later today. Still going to knock it out. We've got about 10 miles to go. I would guess could be for the searchlights. And we've got one on this side as well. So this one in front is the Marine Pellet Stand, or MP2 Tower. It's one of the 9 planned towers in Jersey for use in observing targets at sea. I'm going going to see that this one is still in use. The only difference being is that they use it as a friendly type place now, not as a hostile location.
This MP2 tower and some of the Heritage Conway towers you could stay in, as they've been converted into holiday lets, preserving their history for generations to come. Visit the website on screen and in the description for details. Not sponsored.
Okay, we can see actually, rather than just the MP2 tower there, it's actually got a bunk by the side of it as well. There's another concrete structure down there. One of the most fortified places the whole of the Channel Islands. Like up there, fortress that was basically here. That's the way we're heading now. And with the Atlantic War, it's probably one of the most fortified nest of buildings altogether along the whole Atlantic Wall. It is a dream to do the Atlantic Wall. Originally it was to walk it when I retired. I think with my knee, I don't think I'll be able to do that now. It is 4,500 miles, so, but maybe cycle or electric cycle. That could take some months to do. I think we're walking towards a cliff edge here. Oh no, there's a path that way. But we are walking through cliff edge. There's the bay. As I say, that drops off quite considerably. Finally, I found a decent footpath sign. Pity they're not all around the island doing this. Like a Banksy of footpaths. Looking down over the St. Owen's Bay. Right, anyway, we're going to head on this way. I was going to walk along the road for a while, but this looks easier to walk on than a vehicle possessed road. I'm not entirely sure what this structure is. Obviously most of it's missing now. Could have been a mill. I do believe there's a couple of windmills that were around this way, but it does look a bit wide for that as well. So this is the radio tower. Today it's an amateur radio tower. Built of concrete. The structure behind is called the M10, and it was an Army coastal artillery range. The M10 was built to resemble a private house with a slate roof and painted windows that concealed machine gun loopholes. M10 also served as an observation post. The building was taken over by the Jersey Amateur Radio Society in the 1980s and refurbished as their headquarters. Okay, it's like a modern fortress. It's Jersey Prison. Yesterday when I was talking to somebody, they mentioned about, with France being only miles away, that you would have thought the people, the immigrants, would be coming on the boats to Jersey. But Jersey's laws are slightly different to ours in the mainland British Isles, as they've got their own governing state. They make their own rules, so to speak, and their rules are, a asylum seeker lands here, they automatically put them in prison. So there's the footpath. I think I'm going that way now. There's no judge or jury. This is the way it goes. You go to prison. So I presume that's the way to stop them. Anyway, it's not a political video. HM Old Signal Point. So Her Majesty's Old Signal Point. Let's cruise. Evening here now. It's about 5:30. We've got, I think, about 8 miles to go. My objective is to get there before sunset. So I've got 3 hours before sunset. Some rowing, 4 coxed. Are they practicing for the Oxford boat race? Or is that Cox 8? That is a cliff. There's no slope down that one. Right, still plodding along. What stood at that point was 2 times 2 centimeter flak guns.
Identifiziert das Ziel!
Flugzeuge, niedrige Höhe, laden! Feuer bereit!
So this is the Winston Churchill Memorial Park at St. Brelade. Very picturesque, very flowery, very green grass. Not much weeds in that lot. Looking back at St. Brelade's parish church. The actual bay was renowned for smugglers. One Cornish boat landed with 650 casks of brandy, and from the beaches here. This is a smuggler's beach. It's a very nice fine beach, fine sand. Okay, so we're continuing on the beach, St. Brelade's beach. Got a couple of fortifications, but as I mentioned before, it's renowned as a smuggler's beach. A lot of brandy and gin came to the shore, I think back in about the 1870s. I can see some sort of fortification over there. And then round the bay there's a Conway Tower. I must admit there's some lovely beaches in Jersey. I'm surprised they're quite deserted, quite honest. I mean, there can't be more than 30 people on this beach. Okay, so we can see there's another Conway Tower there. So I'm using 2 different maps to direct me around the island and gives me all the information about the different fortifications and bits of history along the way. I'm mainly using one that's on the Jersey bunker tour. You can quite clearly see that is a Conway Tower, but you can see by the looks of it, it's been incorporated into apartments or a hotel. Anyway, continuing on. So this one is STP Le Grouin. There's a 1680 casement bunker, one type 631 bunker for a pack, 30 centimeters, searchlight points, open gun positions, traces of the trenches and foxholes all dotted around this area. So I think it's up in those trees as well, and other fortifications. I'm going to see that gun placement there. I love all these rock formations around the island, especially when the tide's out and you can just wander around them all. I think I will come back to Jersey, more of a leisurely holiday. There's plenty of things I want to still see. You can see up there, there's amongst the stones, there's some concrete laid up there. So obviously that's part of this gun battery that was here. It's concrete there, there's a couple of, oh, there's an entranceway actually there. So there's some sort of tunnel entranceway up there. You can just about make that out. If I do come back again, I may go and have a look at that, what's in that entrance. Not today though. In fact, actually, there's another concrete wall over there as well. This whole area seems to probably been dug in. Well, tunnels and all sorts here. I'm guessing beyond it, when we go across the bay a bit more, we might be able to see there's a gun placement pointed across this bay as well. And looking back, as I mentioned, there is a gun placement position there. So a gun with a face back out that way. One Swain Tower, built in 1790. And it's actually got a connection to what I was talking about earlier about the smugglers. So I don't know if they helped them or they stopped them. I believe there's a pub just down the end here called the Smugglers Inn. The old Smugglers Inn, genuine free house.
The Smugglers Inn has a rich history with parts of the building dating back to the 13th century. Beginning as 2 fishermen cottages with an old worldly interior and concealed tunnels, the perfect place to hide and trade illegal goods that the smugglers brought to the island. The smuggled goods included heavily taxed items like tobacco, brandy and tea, to avoid the tax that should have been paid via import duties.
Now this is another thing. While I've been walking around the island, I've seen a whole host of different post boxes. Not many of Queen Elizabeth II, mainly George, Victoria and Edward. Going back to what Victoria's reign was from 1837 to 1901. Most of the pillar boxes were about 1848 started appearing for Victoria and continued all the way up to about, I guess, to the end of her reign in 1901. Then King Edward VII, he reigned from 1901 to 1910, so quite a short reign. After that was George V. He was, I think it was 1910 to 1936. After George V, it was Edward VIII, who, I think, what was he? I think it was in 10 months, I believe he was. And then he abdicated to go with the American divorcee, Wallis Simpson, and they fled off to France and then other countries. Then after that was Albert, who was, I think it was George's second son, but he took the name of George VI. He was carried on from 1937 or 1936 to 1952. And then Elizabeth II from 1953 to September 2022. And then we have our current King, Charles III, reigned since 22. Although I haven't seen any pillar boxes with his initials on as yet. There you go. Oh, there's a rat. You see that rat? I think it's something to do with electric. Is that German? It's an old farmhouse building. We've got the chickens to match. Well, I think he's a cockerel. Le Coq, as we're not far from France. As in on the football shirt, isn't it? Le Coq. How about that? Will that do you for a weekend? That's probably the biggest property I've seen on the island. When Bergerac used to be on, back in the 80s, the house was quite famous. Charlie Hungerford, was it, lived there? And John Nettles, who played Bergerac, film location. It was a pinky house, if I remember right. Now, from what I've been told, it's actually been knocked down. But the house was not far from here. Other houses were built on top of it, so that could have been the one. So this is Portlet Bay, the tower on the little islet named Le Grouin. It was built during the Napoleonic Wars. This islet is known as Janvier's Tomb. Philippe Janvin was a sailor suspected of having the plague and was marooned here in 1721. A couple of yachts docked in the little cove there. Maybe they're smugglers. Now on the right hand side, when I went to RAF Newton a couple of years ago, and they've got some bunkers there where they've blocked off the doorways and it's just a concrete shell like that. And what they've done is inside it, they've put radioactive material inside them, blocked them off. They've made it look like doors on one end, but they're actually painted on. But we are coming to another large gun battery. In fact, there's quite a few buildings up here. This is the German Batterie Lothringen.
This raised platform was for number 4 gun, one of 4 naval guns that were part of this coastal battery. Here once stood a 15cm SKL 45 naval gun with a range of 9 miles or 15 kilometers. The building on the right is, or was, a shelter garage. You can see where it's been filled in now with concrete at the front, but it would have garaged the 7.5cm FK231 field gun.
Anyway, around here, now there's quite a few buildings dotted around here. There's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. The middle one's probably communication. There's a gun up there on that side, naval gun I think. Can't get around that way, so we're going to head up and go on the path. And there's quite a few different batteries all around Jersey. We had the Balkan, Les Lons at the top west of the island. So then we saw the one near the lighthouse, La Combra, and then we've got this one as well. The area is called Normont. Anyway, let's have a look at some of these guns, and then we're not going to whip around them all like, but give you the view. If you want to come to Jersey and have a look at these fortifications, then you know most of the places to go to now. I think I saw a picture of one of these. This one here maybe is the ones they do the tours of. Actually, saying that door's open. I might be able to go in there. More stairs though. My knees are killing me. So ammunition bunker number 6. So can we have a look in there? Not much happening in there. But this door's open. There we go. No, not much. Let's see. Just a single room. There's another one on that side, similar sort of shape, I think. Now, there are some better structures. We'll pop over and have a look in a minute. I've noticed. I'm not showing you yet. Anti-aircraft position. Probably a rotating gun on that one. There's a bunker over there. 2 or 3 other locations there. One of them's that where that car is coming from. Underneath there, there's a big bunker. They see you've got a naval gun on that one. Another gun position. But we're going to go have a look at one over here. There's 2 more naval guns over here. And oh, look at that. That's what we're heading for. So that's it. We've got one more bay to do before we get to the end. But let's have a look at these guns before we get up there. This metal that was built into it here, these hooks are for camouflage nets. So we've got to say the gun placement up there. We've got this gun up here, so let's go and have a look. A bunker down there. That would be like a refuge to go if you came under fire. The actual guns could fire 44 kilogram high explosive shell up to a maximum range of 18,000 meters. After the war, the British Army removed them and taken out to the steep cliffs of Les Landes. That gives you more information of what the gun battery looked like. It's basically like a mini town of just fortifications. 200, 300 soldiers would have been here. So the one that we saw up at Molk, Les Landes at the top, that had a similar layout as this one. And the one at Le Grouin, where the lighthouse was, that would have also a similar. But this one looks a bit bigger than that one. Right, okay. So let's move on. Oh, just looking across the bay, just noticed we've got the RNLI lifeboat. Hopefully it's not going out to find anybody. It's just doing a bit of practice run. Number 1 gun. So this is part of that naval gun we just saw up there. They've got camo net on it. That's where all the inlets are for the shells. Well, we've had a mixture of weathers today. It's quite sunny when I started this morning. Then we had a bit of drizzle. I didn't even realise it was raining for about 10 minutes. It was that fine. Then all of a sudden it's become overcast, as you can see here. It's getting a bit breezy as well now, and it's a little bit cooler. I think it's about 4 miles left to do. I think with the trail, because they says it's 48 miles in total, that's as if you walk straight line. But then if you go to all these different little features along the way, extra miles. Because according to my phone, I've walked 57 miles. And I've still got 4.5 to do. So we're looking at 61 by the time I finish it. Anyway, heading up this track, the coast path, I think is where that bloke is actually. I've seemed to miss the turning, so I thought I'd just walk up the path. It ends up at the same point. Hello. Hello. Oh, nice. Age is creeping up on me, I think. It is hurting, especially as I'm walking downhill now. So that's more of a reason for you to like this video. The amount of pain I'm putting myself through to put this video out. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed it, but it's hard going on my legs. Just my knees really. The rest of me feels fine. Please click the like. I think I've earned it. I've earned your like on this one. So all we've got to do is walk around this bay and on home and dry, so to speak. From what I gather, because most of the houses and buildings in St Heliers seem to say it, St Heliers began to thrive about 1830 onwards. So a lot of the buildings seem to be dated between 1830 and 1890. Now obviously there's buildings been built since then and probably some of the older buildings have been knocked down.
The Cream building on the right was part of WN Hafen Oben, a resistance nest. A defensive point for the harbour. To the right of the building, by the harbour wall, is a 676 SK bunker that housed a 5cm KWK anti-tank gun and 2 machine guns, both in Renault FT-17 tank turrets.
Okay, we reached the bay. In front of us, this is St Albans Fort. It's a small walled fortification. And it's 500 metres offshore, but as you can see, as the tide's out, you can walk to it and away, as those people are doing just that. Now, it was actually built in 1542 originally. In the beginning, it served to protect the harbour from pirates, and in later years was developed as part of the island defences during the many Franco-English wars. Major alterations were made in the 19th century, and during World War II occupation, the Germans added concrete bunkers and gun emplacements. As you can see, the tide is out. Now there's another fort we're going to pass before we get to the end. You can just about see it in the background. I think that's called Elizabeth Fort. It's right near the entrance of St Helier and near the end point. I've got a second lease of life. My knees aren't aching so much now I've gone on a flat. There we go, so we've got the little marina where all the boats are sitting on the ground as the tide's out. Right, well, we're going to walk around the bay now.
Earlier, I spoke of the rail line that the Germans reopened to transport ammunition and supplies from St Aubin to Le Crabiere. This is the location where the St Aubin station was located. However, before the occupation, the rail line continued all the way across the southern side of the island to Gunsite until its closure in 1936.
Okay, so we are now walking around our last bay. When we can see the end over there, I'm thinking it's not that far away, is it? But this is St Albans Bay. The thing is, the tide is out, but that just looks like mud flats over there, and I'm not too keen on going across that. So I think we're just gonna have to walk all the way around the edge. Now, I just noticed a guy, first of all, he was walking alongside me, and now he's walking on the beach, so I think I'm gonna follow suit. Maybe not walk over there, but this bit seems to be soft enough. Just when my knees are feeling better, let's go and do more steps.
Right, the resistance nest of La Haube. This position is similar to what we've seen earlier, where defences are strong near slick waves off and onto the beach. At this location was a Renault tank turret with a 3.7cm KWK gun and 2 machine gun 34s. Plus behind the tank turret stands Lahore Manor, a hotel built in a Georgian style in 1796. During the occupation, it became accommodation for German officers and a command post. We can see the Conway Tower, named Third Tower, or Beaumont Tower, built in 1787, and in the front of it stands the Gunsite Cafe, which is a repurposed German bunker. The bunker housed a 10.5cm cannon, and as we've seen across the island, the Germans disguised this location so no one would know what was behind the fake windows. I think the German soldiers just got bored of waiting for the Allies to attack, so thought, let's get creative and disguise the gun positions so no one will expect a thing. The road behind leads to the pavilions. In 1942, a bakery was built here by organisation Toot. The bakery was to make bread for the soldiers and forced labour on the island. Today the building still stands and is now listed. Unlike a previous tower on St Owen's Bay, where we visited this morning, the German soldiers decided to blow up another tower, which once stood just over there where that bunker is now. as Organisation Toot in 1943 wanted to build on the same spot as the tower. That tower was the second tower, or better known as Bell Tower, as some of Hitler's pals thought it was more important to build a bunker here rather than keep the 200-year-old tower. So blew it up, as the photos show, making way for a bunker that they wanted to incorporate into the sea wall.
Looking across the bay. We're looking at Google Map at the minute, and it shows, well, I'm actually in the sea at the minute. Oh, Jesus, I can walk on water.
Along the long bay of St Aubin, which stretches 4.1 miles, are 6 4.7 centimetre pack 36 T-guns, all flanking St Aubin. With the pack guns was also 4 resistance nests. 2 of these were incorporated into 2 convoy towers.
So when I've travelled, maybe if I'd done a coastal walk, I'd pick up a shell. So I saw a shell a minute ago and I thought, oh, no, that's all right. And then right next to it, I found this one. I'm not sure what this one is, but it's like 4 shells all attached to each other. It looks like an oyster shell type thing, but I've never seen it like this. So anyone knows their shells, what shells this come from? That one there, I believe is called, it's a WN first tower. Yeah, similar thing, you can see the gun faces out to the left-hand side. There is a wall in front of it as well, so I don't know if that's a defensive wall. And to the left of it, we can just see, that is tower number 1. Conway Tower number 1. So I presume, as it's called first tower, that was the first of the Conway Towers along this St Austen's Bay. Okay, as we start to get into the town, I can hear police sirens and all sorts going off. It's getting busier, so I thought my conclusions to this walk. It's been a fascinating walk to cover the whole island in 3 days. Yeah, I suggest it. It's a good island walk. There's no end of things to see. It's not just about World War II. There's a lot of this Napoleonic War towers and other fortifications. There's quite a lot of greenery as well, because we've got quite a lot of national park areas within Jersey, the north part of the island. That's probably the most beautiful. It's the most challenging part of the walk as well. Endless amount of steps going up and down. On another positive is that when I've been traveling around the island, there's always been places that I can stop and get something to eat and refreshments. There is areas where I'm walking on footpaths. Like I say, when the tide goes out, you just walk along the beaches. You're away from the crowds. Signage wasn't great, because there has been places that you've moved away from the actual sea, so you can't actually see the sea, but there's no definite way to find the way. I've used my map. Without that, I could have struggled on finding the way sometimes. It's not just a point in having the sea on your right-hand side or left-hand side, depending which way you go. That's my negatives. Positives, it's got the history, it's got the beauty, it's got the coast, it's got the wharf, and I've enjoyed it all the way. I'm going to head on towards the end. Well, I can't see the end yet, but I think as we get around here, we'll be able to see Elizabeth Fort a little bit better. But just behind me, just here, that's the last of the fortifications along the beach side, and this one is called Grand Hotel, because I would guess there was a Grand Hotel built above it. So let's carry on and just do this last bit. These are the boats, well, amphibious vehicles that get you across over to Elizabeth Castle. Freedom Tree, unveiled by Her Majesty the Queen on the 9th of May 2005. The tree represents freedom, hope and peace. We've got the marina on our left-hand side, Elizabeth Marina Breakwater. So the tide must be coming in, because we saw those people walking across earlier as I was going across the bay, and now, as you can see, they can't walk across it now. Little egret, looking for fish. It's like a smaller version of a heron, and white. So this is Elizabeth Fort, and we could see earlier that we saw people walking across this here. Obviously, can't do that now. And then even the time that we've walked up, so the tide is definitely coming in. If your boat's next to water all the time, you would have thought it'd be quite clean. That's the dirtiest boat I've ever seen in my life. I take it back. It's not the dirtiest boat I've seen in my life. This one is. That's disgusting. I wouldn't like to have my boat next to that. Look at the marina from the other side as we head towards the Elizabeth terminal. And we can see Elizabeth Fort. Well, I'm struggling to find the end point of this walk. Went all the way around the marina and then realised it's not the way to go. Fortunately, bumped into a bloke and he's told me to go this way.
The civilians on the Channel Islands living under German occupation was one long struggle, but further hardship was to follow. Up until June 1944, regular supplies from the mainland of France were coming in daily. With the German soldiers covering the nearby coastline of Normandy and Brittany, regular ships came over stocked with food for troops and the citizens of the Channel Islands. But then came D-Day, 6th of June 1944, where the Allies managed to take the Normandy coast, pushing the German front back, with no logistics or supplies available as the Allies pushed forward towards Berlin.
We soon realized that this was D-Day, the great day we'd all been waiting for. We'd only to stick it out a little longer and our turn would come.
The islands became isolated as ships stopped coming. It didn't take long until food, fuel and medical supplies became sparse. By September, the shops on the islands were nearly empty. And not only that, as autumn became winter, there was no way to produce heat in the islanders' homes. The people of the island, including the soldiers, had to become creative. The Germans began to eat the meat of the horses and shot seagulls, where the locals started eating their pets, cats and dogs. Only cows were spared, so the children could have milk. Being an island, fishing could have been an option, but the soldiers didn't want the locals being out of their sight in case they sailed to the Allies. The islanders contacted Churchill as they were starving, asking for help. "We're dying!" But Churchill fought for the civilians to be given aid. The German soldiers would be fed as well. So to stop the Germans from benefiting, he famously said, "Let them starve." After lengthy negotiations between the 27th and the 31st of December 1944, the SS Liga, a Swedish Red Cross supply ship, arrived from Lisbon with much needed supplies. Each civilian was given 2 much needed food parcels. The soldiers got nothing. Afterwards, further arrivals of Red Cross supply ships came to the islands, and the same happened, civilians getting parcels and the soldiers not being given anything. So the soldiers began to steal food from the civilians if it wasn't locked away. Come May the 9th, 1945, the German officer Major Siegfried Hein, Deputy Commandant, signed the surrender, and Commandant Vice Admiral Friedrich Hofmeister later that day surrendered his sword. The Channel Islands were liberated and the war was over. The soldiers then handed in their arms and became POWs, first helping in cleaning up of the islands of the thousands of mines, barbed wire and military hardware, and then being sent to the camps in England.
Turn the camera around, and there you go. Elizabeth Terminal. So I was here 3 days ago. Done the full circuit, the whole of the island. It's been an enjoyable one. I've liked every bit of it. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it, and I've pushed myself through it, so push yourself to press the like. And then feel free to add a comment and subscribe. So until the next one, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, hikers.
Our dear Channel Islands are also to be freed today.
Some may think there was too much military punctilio about this event. However that may be, the Huns were on their way out. There's Vice Admiral Hofmeyer being removed. Being a Hun, he apparently still thinks he's got the right of way. It was highly satisfactory to watch these German troops laying down the arms.